Hi, I'm Chris Bailey. I'm a filmmaker, and this is Art Detroit.
I'm home, you're home in Detroit City. There's no place like home. Just tell me what you need. It's all right here in Detroit. Don't matter what it is, it's all right here. Oh.
Hello. This is fabulous.
What's up, Sheila?
Wow.
Yeah, this is classic. This is classic Detroit. This is Motown.
Clearly, the cars, the music, I love it. How's it going?
Good, good.
So good to see you.
Yes.
And I'm sure that, or I hope that you've been resting a little bit from wrapping your film just recently.
Not too much. I'm starting to catch up finally.
Rolling. We're rolling, sir. Action!
Tell us about the movie Curtis.
The movie Curtis is about a schizophrenic man who's tormented by his failed basketball dreams and roams the streets of Detroit with a young basketball player looking for his lost high school championship ring.
Wow. I know that you're a screenwriter, you're a director, you're a producer, but kind of talk about those roles.
Basically, you know, every role that needed to be filled or where I could lend a helping hand, that I was there. You know, that was part of just the grind of getting this film made, is that I had to take it on myself to come here, to find a lot of the locations, to get in touch with the right people that I knew would be useful in helping bring this film to life.
I like the overhead shot of the court. Yeah. I thought it was cool.
You grew up here.
Right.
You had moved out to LA, but you always said that it was so important to you to come back here for your first feature film, which is what you did.
Right.
So why was that important to you?
Aside from this just being home, I feel like Detroit is so unique. Everything you can imagine hit this city and we're still standing, right? And we're now coming back even stronger. Whatever we hit, we're pushing through. We'll problem solve and we'll figure it out. I say put it up.
You know what I mean? You always see that and you're like, oh,
yeah.
All they did was knock the chair over.
Right. The location we're about to go to now, the basketball court, a good part of the movie revolves around it. And our two characters eventually meet each other here and agree to go on the journey, like, to finding Curtis's ring.
Okay.
I grew up playing basketball. So the basketball portion of it is like just my passion and love that like I've had for the game always growing up. I started reading about former like street ball legends. You talk to anybody who knew them, they were the greatest basketball players like they had ever seen. We're from, you know, Earl Manigault, the GOAT, Curtis Jones, Joe Hammond, Arthur Agee. Their dreams never really like materialized the way they thought it would. A huge part of this story is that regret, holding on to regret and being able to let go of something. And you feel like you're getting tired. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. Also deals with mental health, which I think is a huge problem just in the world, in this country, and something not really talked about, you know, especially in the Black community, especially with men, just in general. So I wanted to open that up. I can't tell you how many basketball courts that I've seen around the city and how long it took to actually narrow down to this one.
What were the factors that narrowed this down for you?
One thing is that it's just like a single contained basketball court, and it felt like really intimate, like even though that at the same time it was open. So I think just the backdrop, instead of just like an open field,
it's more closed in.
Yeah, we had something closed in, more textured, and something that felt like a little bit more like the city. So we had our kids here who all like high school age, from like 14, 15, maybe some 16-year-old kids, completely filling this space. I told them before we started, you're doing this for the city, that you guys are repping the city, that like when people see this movie, like no matter where they are, when they see Detroit basketball, like this is real, it's serious here, you know? And like they took it to heart and they were phenomenal.
Wow.
Like better than I expected, and like they brought the energy. We were here till like, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were still like down at the course shooting around, like talking, and it just brought me back to that place of like just growing up where I remember being outside. I remember being like either at somebody's house or like at a park shooting around, and like this was summer.
Yeah.
When I was watching that, I was like, that's a real moment. You won't ever be able to have that again. Like, even as adults, like you'll be able to meet up with childhood friends and things and, go grab drinks or, do whatever. But you won't ever be able to create that pure moment of just like carefree,
just living
and just being out here and like, those are very, very special moments for me. So when I wrote this story, I couldn't think of any other place but to do it here. It takes place in the summer, and it made me just think about all my summers growing up and like, that feeling, that vibe, I couldn't get anywhere else. Hey Matt, can we get Dre mic'd? Sometimes it's surreal and I have to take a moment to stand back that like, wow, I remember sitting like in the house, like alone and just coming up with this scene, and now we're actually here and there's a crew of like 40 people who are helping, make this come true.
So we good? All right, guys, here we go. Let's do this again, please.
I'll tell you that the crew, my producers who did come on and did come out to Detroit for the first time, they fell in love with the city. They fell in love with the people here. Like they all like, here's a funny story. Now all of them love Better Made chips and drink Fagos.
I love it.
But yeah, it was great to be able to like introduce people to Detroit. And one of the things that I wanted to do with this film was to show life in here, to show that like this is a living, breathing city. Like, it's not dead at all. The car wash here where we shot one of our scenes at, it felt like a classic Detroit like hand car wash like spot. The colors and everything is like beautiful and like unique and like really stands out and like adds character to this area. So I saw it, circled back around. Luckily, Gary, who's the owner, was there and told him about the film. And without knowing me, without like going over like numbers and everything, he was just immediately interested, and like I think a part of him was glad to see something like happening in Detroit, and like somebody who's from here, like he was happy to support and show love. I got that almost everywhere that I went around the city, like when interacting with people, to like going into like the stores or things like that. It was all love.
Yeah. When is the first time that you realized that, okay, I can make a living at this, I can do this as a career?
When I was in school, I met a guy who lived in LA, who was a screenwriter who had written some movies that came out into theaters. So I reached out to that guy, and he so happened to be shooting a film out there. So he said, you can come out here and be a production assistant, which for those who don't know is like the bottom on the totem pole, but like...
But you're there.
But you're there. So he was like, I can't pay you. I can't put you up in a hotel and the whole nine. And I said, don't worry about it. Flew out, put my own self, with my own money, stayed in a hotel, and I got to be on my first like official film set. One of the producers on the film, she came up to me last and she was like, so you really came out here from Detroit to be a PA on here? I was like, yeah. And she said, you know what? I fully respect that. That says a lot about you. If you have any scripts or anything that you want to send me, like, feel free. That was like one of the moments where like, all right, this is real and I can make this happen. That was the same summer I said, you know what? I'm gonna quit my job and I'm moving to LA. Sounds extra cliche and crazy, like thinking about it now. And I came in and immediately started interning. They eventually ended up bringing me on as a paid script reader. And that was like actually my first job out there. And then eventually the guy who got me the job, he left and I took his position. Action. You know, no matter how scary, like, you know, something might be or overwhelming something might be, that like there's these signs, these omens along the way that I believe that like God shows you that like, hey, you're doing the right thing. It might not be so it might not be so drastic where it's completely changing your life and it's everything that you wanted. But there's these little subtle things that say, hey, keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing, and you're going in the right direction. Okay, you made your point. You made your point. I think it's just something that I love to do. I love like hearing stories about like people's experiences, their perspectives, and the whole nine. And I love like being able to interpret that and make it my own and like tell stories. So I think it's just the ability to be able to like connect to the heartbeat of something and find that truth and write about it.
Because it's just compositionally, he's here and then they're here. Whereas like here, they're kind of just on the one side of the frame.
All right, let's get the camera down, John.
Being able to have this vision and then really help see it to life as you like envision it. For me, there's not much like more powerful than that, to be able to like see really something that like came into fruition that you had been dreaming about, that keeps you up late at night, and you know, that you pour your heart into, and you see that come out on screen. And then even bigger than that, you see that come out on the screen and then it affects other people. People tell you that like they relate to that, that like that grabbed them or that helped them, that inspired them. I mean, that's why I do it.
Just tell me what you need. It's all right here. Yes, it is. Yeah.